Hello, and welcome to another training video for Enlite POS powered by Dark. Today we're going to be looking at closing a cashier session. In the previous video, we looked at how to open a cashier session. If you haven't seen how to do that, please go back and take a look at that video. So the first thing that we're going to do is head over to the cashier module. This is the orange button up here on the top left. And before we get started, I'm going to show you something that's quite common. What happens if I try to enter the cashier module with a different cashier's PIN? In the previous video, we opened a cashier session using Isaac Newton's PIN. So right now that cashier session is open, and Isaac Newton is the cashier responsible for any payments that we received while this session is open. So if I go into the cashier module, I'm going to click up here on the cashier button, and I enter a different PIN, it's going to show me that the cashier drawer has been locked by Isaac Newton. So this is the employee that has the cashier session open. And if I want to open a new cashier session as Alan Turing, this is our current employee, this is the PIN that we're using. If I want to open a new cashier session, I need to talk to Isaac Newton so that he can close out his so that I can open mine. So remember, there's only one person who is responsible for the cashier session per station. And it's quite common for someone to try to enter the cashier module using their PIN while someone has a cashier session open. So this is the screen that they're going to see. It's going to tell them who's got their cashier session open and how long it's been open. So it tells us that we've been logged in as a cashier for about 16 hours and that the start time was this over here. Okay, so that's what happens if I try to go into the cashier module with a different PIN while a cashier session is open. So we're going to close out of that, and we're going to go back into the cashier module, but this time we're going to use the right PIN. So here I am. This time I'm logged in as Isaac Newton, which we said had the cashier session open. And this is what our screen looks like to close the cashier session. So if you watched our previous video, this section up here will look very familiar to you. We're going to go through our cash drawer and we're going to count all the coins and the notes that are in our cash drawer at the end of our cashier period. Down here, a little further down, we have our register start. So when we opened the drawer, we said that there were $150 in it. And then over here is our register end is calculated by the system. The system calculates that there should be $199.53 in the drawer. And you can see where this number comes from by looking a little further down at the orders and sales section. So we started with $150 and the system recorded $49.53 worth of cash sales. So 150 plus $49.53 gives us our $199.53 register end. So if I was actually going to close my register, I would start by counting all our coins and notes. We're going to do this quickly. So we'll say we have one of these, two of these, one of these, four of these, two of these, and three of these. So you can see as I was entering those numbers, the cashier end amount was updating. And now that I've counted all the denominations and coins and notes that are in my cash drawer, I've come to an exact match. If I made a mistake for some reason, or say I was short, say for example I'm short $20, the system is going to show me that difference. Again, like when we had a difference in opening the cashier session, the system is not going to prevent you from closing your register with a difference. However, it is going to record that there was a difference at the time of closing. So I'm going to move this back up so that we don't have a difference. So we're going to put 2 there. And you can see over here in the orders and sales section that this number was also being updated as I entered the coins and notes that were in my cashier drawer. So again, I'm going to move this to 1, and you can see that this changes to $29.53. If I update it again to 2, it changes to $49.53, which matches the recorded amount, and the system is recording a 0 difference for this payment method. That's how we close out our cash in the drawer. If we receive other payment methods, they are also listed here. If you apply payments with store credit, the system is not going to let you edit this field. The system knows when store credit is applied to payments, and it records the amount here, and it also enters the amount for the employee in this field. They can't change this. This is based on transactions in the system, so there's no way for them to make a mistake unless they applied the payment incorrectly, in which case we'll take a look at how you can see some of the errors that may have been made in a minute. For checks, the employee will go through the checks that are in their drawer and they'll add them up and they can enter the total here. So I can put 2890, which matches our recorded amount. If I enter more, the system is going to note the difference. Same if I enter less, the system will note the negative difference. We'll leave it exact. And if we're using credit card manual, which means a credit card processor that is not integrated with our system, the employee can go through and count the credit card vouchers, sum them up, and enter the amount here. If we were using a credit card processor that is tied into the system, we would have an additional payment method here. It would just say credit card. It wouldn't say credit card manual. It would just say credit card. And those fields would be automatically populated because the system is integrated with that payment processor. Let's take a look at what happens if we need to do a little bit of research. So say, for example, if I was $20 off, I could come over here to each of these view buttons, and where I have sales, I can click on it and it's going to show me all the sales that compose the number that the system recorded. So this 49.53 for cash is derived from all of these transactions and the amounts of each. So a common thing that happens is that maybe a credit card sale was recorded as a cash sale. So over here you'd find the amount that should have appeared under the credit card section, for example. And you can do this with any of the payment methods. So if I want to see what checks make up this 2890, I click on that and I see that I received a check from Bruce Wayne for 2890. This gives the employees the ability to research some of their issues. So if there is a difference, they have the ability to go into each of these payment methods and try to see if they can track it down. Now, if I recorded a credit card sale as a cash sale and there's an extra, say for example this 847-1 that was really done on the credit card but I recorded as a cash sale, the employee, the cashier, does not have the ability to void that out. They're going to have to talk to a manager to void out, unless you give them a manager pin and they can go into the back office and void out that payment and then reissue it with the correct payment type. That's more up to you depending on how your operation works and how much responsibility you give your cashiers. But by default, the employees and the cashiers are not going to be able to void out payment transactions for security reasons, of course. Okay, so now that I'm not showing any differences and we've looked at the details that make up all of these recorded numbers, the next step would be to note or explain any differences if we had them. So currently we don't have any differences, so I'm just going to put a note in here just so that you guys can see what it looks like when we look at the report that prints. All right, so we'll add a little test note there. Okay, now let's go back to these fields here in the center and let's review these one last time before we close our cashier period. So we had our register start, we have our register end as calculated by the system. We talked about how this comes from the cashier start up here plus the recorded amount of cash sales. So we have our cashier end. This is what is in the cash drawer at the end of our period. We're not showing any differences. And now we have the ability to take cash out of the drawer. So for example, if your operation as a matter of policy only leaves $150 in the drawer, we're recording $199.53. So over here, we would enter the amount of money that we're taking out of the cash drawer and we're going to put it in an envelope or we're going to put it in the safe. However your operation manages that excess cash that has to come out of the drawer. So here I would enter 49.53 and that means that I'm going to be leaving $150 in the cash drawer. This is my recorded close. So the next employee that opens a cashier session will have an opening amount or a register start amount of $150, which is what is my recorded close. This is how much I'm leaving in the drawer. Okay, once everything looks good, I have no differences. I've taken the excess cash out. I've noted something. If I need to leave any notes, this is optional. I just press this close register button. So we get a notification that the cashier has logged out and our cashier session is closed. So now if I try to go to receive a pickup and payment, it's going to prompt me for my cashier PIN because there is no cashier currently with a session open. We're not going to open that right now. Next thing I want to look at is the cashier closing report. So this is our cashier closing report. Up here at the top, it tells you what store this report is from and what station generated this cashier report and who the cashier was for this period. It tells you when the period was started and when the period was closed. Over here we have information similar to what we were seeing in the cashier closing screen. We have our different payment methods. We have the amounts the cashier recorded, the amounts the system recorded, and if there were any differences, there would be numbers here. This is the test note that we added so that everyone can see what it looks like. Down here we have a few other statistics like the sales tax collected, environmental sales tax, the tax P is a different kind of tax not everybody uses. Down here again we have the register start in cash, we have our cash sales, and then our total. Note that even though we didn't see it in the cashier closing screen, if there were manual withdrawals or manual deposits into the cash register, they would be noted on this report over here. Here is the cash out that we took out of the register at the time we closed, and the recorded close of $150, which is the same as the next register start. The next time a person opens a cashier period, there's going to be $150 in the drawer. If there were any differences between what the system recorded and the cashier, you'd also see the sum total of that difference down here. This report gets printed out every single time a cashier closes their period. If for whatever reason there is an error in the printer, you can always go to the reprint section and reprint these reports. You can also view reporting related to the cashier periods in the back office in the reports section. So that's how you close a cashier period. We took a look at a lot of different things in this video. We saw what happens when you try to enter the cashier section with the incorrect PIN. We reviewed the layout of the cashier closing screen and how to use the coins and notes field. We looked at how to view transactions that make up the numbers that the system recorded during the cashier period. We saw how to take cash out to put it in our safe or in an envelope to give to the owners, however that process works at your stores. And we saw how we can add notes if we have to explain any differences between the cash drawer and what the system recorded. And finally, we took a look at the cashier closing report and all of the information that shows there. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope that you learned something new. From everyone here at Dark, thank you so much for your time and your attention, and especially thank you for your business. I'll see you on the next video.